Every day, lakhs of deliveries make their way to customers' homes across India, bringing convenience at our doorsteps. But with this ease also come inevitable consequences for the environment. Lakhs of deliveries means mountains of packaging waste, thousands of vehicles on the road, and extensive energy consumption, all contributing to a supply chain that is not sustainable in the long run. This calls for an urgent need to work towards circularity while creating a future that values responsible growth and environmental care. With phenomenal growth expected in the Indian e-commerce landscape, it is incumbent upon the industry to integrate sustainable practices into their operations. In fact, e-commerce in India is uniquely poised to lead the sustainability charge, not only contributing to global environmental goals, but also meeting the evolving expectations of consumers who prioritize both convenience and environmental responsibility. Recognizing this reality, Flipkart Group has taken the lead in creating a roadmap to a sustainable future. Today, we look at how one of the major e-commerce entities in the country is changing industry practices, not only through its own operations, but also through collaborations that involve key partners, especially the consumer. For 17 years, Flipkart has been India's homegrown online shopping platform, a go-to destination for millions of us for our every need, big or small. Behind the two-dimensional world of the online market lies a whole world of operations, from partnering with brands and sellers to warehouse, storage and inventory operations to order processing and packing, and then finally making it to your doorstep, often traveling hundreds and even thousands of miles. The Flipkart Group has been at the forefront of India's digital revolution with over 14 lakh sellers and a registered user base of 500 million. Hand in hand with their rapid growth has come an enormous sense of responsibility.
So when you do this, when you bring market access opportunity for sellers, small businesses, and bring more convenience to consumers, you grow consumption, right? And when you grow consumption, it also has a material impact on the environment. So one of the thinking that we have, which is very woven in our DNA, is how do we make sure that our consumption driving philosophy, which is growing the economy and growing the opportunity for people, it's done in a manner which is less impactful on the environment.
It is that thinking that was at the heart of the Sustainability Action Summit, a platform for Flipkart's vision of adopting sustainable practices across all aspects of their operations, but always in partnership with other stakeholders who share that vision.
Fundamentally for me is how do you move 100% renewable, 100% electrification of our vehicles, how do you make sure that packaging is green packaging coupled with zero waste, zero water and zero to landfill in the entire supply chain. That's a green supply chain is what I would dream of.
So I think the biggest core idea that drives all of us is that businesses don't exist in isolation. They exist for the planet, on the planet, for the people around us, right? That the customers that we serve, the communities that we exist in. And that's essentially the idea that drives all of us to make a very meaningful impact on the environment around us.
Flipkart's believe that the transition to a more sustainable world cannot be achieved in silos, is what drives its three-pronged approach to its environmental commitments, executing for their own business operations, collaborating with their brands and seller partners, and informing their consumers.
It's going to be very, very important and crucial for corporates to imbibe sustainability in what they do and look at what is happening in the world, look at how the regions are coming with policies.
For the Flipkart Group's own business operations, sustainability is not a mere afterthought, but a fundamental part of every operation, intersecting with every aspect of the company's value chain to drive meaningful change.
When you move products from sellers to consumers through the supply chain, how do you make it greener? How do you make that journey of picking up the products more sustainable? Or warehousing itself. When you run a warehouse, is it sustainable warehouse? And when it is delivered to the consumer, is the last mile also sustainable? So you start thinking about where all you can make active intervention and build right partnership, because partnership is very important when you talk about sustainability.
To bring sustainability across its business operations, the Flipkart Group has focused on 4 aspects: the switch to renewable energy, the transition to electric mobility, sustainable packaging, and improving resource efficiency. It is one of the first e-commerce companies to completely eliminate single-use plastic packaging across its supply chain and shift to paper packaging, while also working towards a zero diversion to landfill approach. Part of its water waste reduction plan is the move to reduce water demand, use alternate sources like RO reject water and treated wastewater for landscaping, and to create water recharging infrastructure. The Flipkart Group started its transition to fleet electrification in 2018 and clocked a major milestone in this journey earlier this year.
Electric vehicles is one of the dominant mode for us from a last mile delivery today. Just few days back we announced that we have now 10,000 EVs. So when you order a product, most of the time you will see the delivery people who will be coming to you will be in EV or maybe cycle. So this is one of the reasons why we are saying actively intervene in every phase and see where you can make a difference. By 2030, we have made a commitment that our last mile fleet will be completely EV. Similarly, we have made commitments on renewable energy, where we are working with the partners across the country to say how can we transition to 100% renewable energy by 2030.
It is with this context of sustainability in action that the Flipkart Group Sustainability Action Summit brought together diverse stakeholders from policymakers, think tanks and academicians to philanthropists, brands and business partners, civil society and social enterprises. Among the major themes discussed was the strategy of how leading corporates are paving the way for conscious consumerism.
Today, there is a certain corporate responsibility on sustainability that all of us as organizations owe to the planet. But also what is increasingly clear is that consumers are demanding for sustainability. They want products which are good for the planet. There is a lack of information, there is a lack of access, and there is a lack of products. And all of this really puts you in a position of looking at how sustainability is coming into the fore, both from a policy perspective, but also from an implementation and on-ground perspective. As sustainability becomes front and center for both us as organizations, but also for consumers, how do you think we can really push the sustainability goals that we have across industries, but also for e-commerce? Because I think this is a relatively new industry with new challenges and we all have to come together to solve them.
I think the first thing that we need to recognize, whether as individuals or companies, is that this is a shared responsibility. I think that needs to remain front and center as a lens, really, when we are setting policies, when we're making decisions, when we're making choices. Because at the end of the day, it's about choices. The resources that we have as organizations are limited, priorities need to be made. We're seeing a lot more of it now, we're talking a lot more about it. But these choices of how do you integrate sustainability and best practices to really reduce the pressure that we're putting on the planet and the people. How do we reduce that in our processes, in the product itself, and in the way that we sell and market this to our consumers, right?
Events like this really work at two levels. One is we talk about the common issues that industry is facing to be able to actually build a sustainable business supply chain model, business model, and sustainable business practices. We learn from each other as we interact with different people from different industries, and I think these events actually help us amalgamate all these learnings and incorporate it into our own businesses such that we can take forward our own pledges on climate action.
Conversations such as these also opens doors for collaboration, for collective advocacy, for sustainable practices within communities, the sharing of knowledge about environmental issues, and inspiring others to take action.
So having the key leaders and decision makers in a room like this from across the sector and across the industry is great to see where there's collaboration that can be done, seeing where synergies can be met, and these discussions then eventually leading to action after the event. You cannot have one sustainability commitment. I think it's a gamut of bringing in sustainability as a core into your business model itself. My takeaway would be that how do we make sure that this materializes into action? And that's something that I would look forward to working with the people in this room and actually make sure that action is being done on ground.
It's critical that we hear the voices because it's a very dynamic and changing scenario here, and we are running out of time in trying to build solutions around the climate change, especially with respect to waste. And therefore, platforms like this bring stakeholders into a room wherein we have to bring in definite commitments with respect to timeline, definite solutions around certain problems which definitely are already seeing light in some part of the country but need to be brought into action. And it has become very critical now for us to go beyond these conference rooms, beyond these platforms to actual reality, because actual reality is there is regulation, there is a problem, but the implementation is weak.
Coming up after the break, we find out how a sustainable supply chain is key in accomplishing the goal of circular economy. It takes years of robust research, planning, and execution to align an entire organization towards a greener mode of operation. The Flipkart Group has evolved its roadmap for a more sustainable future by considering every step of its business operations and supply chain to see where it can bring change. Flipkart's sustainability efforts align with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, focusing on affordable and clean energy, gender equality, reduced inequalities, decent work, and economic growth. This is also reflected in the efforts of the Flipkart Group that is facilitating an inclusive, equitable, empowered, and a sustainable society in India. But change takes time, and creating change comes with its own challenges.
When you talk about the challenges, first is leadership commitment. It starts with leadership commitment for better environment, better sustainability all across the supply chain. Once that commitment is there and it's the top of the mind agenda for organization, it starts with looking at how can I reduce the consumption, how do I recycle, how do I reuse. That's the approach, 3R approach all across. Just to give you an example, if we are a tropical country, how do we move kind of a renewable energy from 10% to 25% to 100%? Today, if you look at solar or a wind, okay, that is possible. You can actually wheel in all your power back to the grid and get to a consumption. That's one piece or example. Packaging is extremely important. Today, we use circular economy. Whatever boxes we get it for the material which comes inside our fulfillment center, we send that back to the mills. We get converted into a package which we ship to a customer. So how do you go to a recycle economy, reuse economy? That's important.
True to its name, the Sustainability Action Summit focused on turning ideas into practices which are accessible to the other sectors.
What are you seeing, from a market perspective? on how supply chain ecosystem and the greening of that ecosystem is evolving, at the ecosystem level.
Sure.
And are there anything that are happening from a policy perspective that excites you today, or the new initiatives in industry that excites you today?
Indian civilization is what, 4,000 years, and we are a very, very sustainable civilization. Our rituals, our festivals, our focus on minimal living fundamentally talks about the demand aspect, which means can we manage and drive balance with what we source from our universe, right? I think fundamentally this civilization understands this well. Second, we also understand the concept of circularity. In our life also we say nothing, it's not a linear model, it's a circularity. The next stage is when the consumer gets the product, uses it. Is there any method of capturing that product back? Okay? Any kind of methods by which we can get it back if the consumer is not reusing or refurbishing? And then ultimately the whole technology, where the technology helps you in inventory, technology helps you in tracing. I think these are the 5-6 elements which are happening, and I'll be very honest to say India in each of these has a policy document and has an ambition for 2030.
More than pointing to the problems, the conversations pivoted around the fact that the immediate solutions are right in front of us.
Circular economy is about how do we actually bring the right kind of packaging into the system if required. Then look at how could all of this packaging then also become recyclable. So reduce is very, very key, and reduce has to start from the producer's side. Other stakeholders, of course, the consumer who has to show mindful consumption. I think leadership involvement is very, very critical, and putting out goals along with actionables and timelines that are really doable is number one. Waste has to be on the radar of the leadership. And I believe that if it's in the radar of the leadership, the right questions are asked, the right commitment is given, the right infrastructure is put towards waste management, and the right monies required for responsible waste management happens.
Events such as the Sustainability Action Summit act as a much needed catalyst, a platform where resolutions are discussed at an operational level but are also aimed at impacting the sustainability discourse at the policy level.
I think this is a convening that is working two ways. One, this convening is bringing the like-minded people together, the people who are sustainability crusaders, who are working in this area for long now, and who are party to the international and as well as domestic conversation around climate action and change. And all these people coming together, they not only reinforce the messaging, but they also let this message become stronger and stronger, and how it can be, taken forward to other stakeholders.
Ultimately, the goal of the Sustainability Action Summit is to create a ripple effect by mobilizing industries to take urgent action.
Sustainability has to trickle down in the business ethos. The business should stand for that sustainability. This is a bigger change that we are talking about. It has effect at different levels. See, we are in the world which is changing very quickly. Climate change is now in our own homes. It is not new to anybody. We are talking about this entire conversation in this smog. What else is needed to give that picture, that, lesson or message that we need to act now? So I would say that everybody needs to come together. The transition is important. We have to build resilience of our systems, of our people, communities. We have to adapt to the change that has already happened and is irreversible, but mitigation is central. We have to mitigate at a very fast rate.
At Flipkart, every initiative is rooted in its commitment to an ecologically healthier planet, aligning with its vision to create sustaining positive impact on both the environment and the communities it serves. Summits such as this one are critical to addressing crises of the scale that all of humanity collectively now faces.
these kind of events allow us that opportunity, allow us to tap into the brilliant ideas that the entire ecosystem has, not just us, open up our eyes to the very, very dynamic environment that we are living in, especially with respect to sustainability. What are the latest technologies that are now becoming available? How can we integrate them in our operations? And most importantly, what we are hoping from this event is to forge partnerships, new partnerships around how can we work together to meet our ultimate goal, which is to invigorate the environment around us.
This approach on sustainability cannot work in isolation. It has to be done through partnership. And these dialogues, working with the experts, actually helps us, energize us to do more on that front. Because it is not just for Flipkart. This is for the nation. This is for the globe. This is for the planet.
Through trailblazing technologies and innovation, Flipkart is bringing value and convenience to crores of customers, sellers, and startups across the country, empowering them in the process of turning this into this. Yet, more than any technology, it is imparting a crucial value to its collaborators, consumers, and counterparts alike, that in every moment, at every step of a business operation, a supply decision, a purchase, a transaction, there is a choice that each of us is making. And the choices we make today of not taking more than we can put back and of guarding the planet we live on can go a long way in leaving it a better place than we found it.